environmentally sensitive probe. That is, it doesn't fluoresce in aqueous solution, but when inserted into a non-polar environment like a lipid bilayer, you can see as you add dynamin, this fluorescently labeled dynamin to liposomes, you see this about 7-8-fold increase in fluorescence intensity. So what happens when you add nucleotides to this dynamin? In the presence of GMP-PCP, nothing happens. Basically stabilize dynamin on the membrane, and there's no further binding. That is, dynamin-membrane interactions are nucleotide independent, consistent with what Jenny had shown, for example. When you add either GDP or GTP, dynamin disassembles rapidly from the membrane, reaching a new equilibrium that involves reactions of assembly, hydrolysis, and disassembly. Introducing cysteine in another location in the molecule and labeling it with a different probe, in this case Bodipi, would just develop an assay to measure dynamin-dynamin interactions on the membrane. So when dynamin assembles on the membrane, these Bodipi fluorophores come into close contact with each other, and you get auto-quenching. So once again, when you add liposomes, you see the quenching of Bodipi fluorescence due to dynamin-dynamin interactions. Now, in this case, when you add GMP-PCP, you see further quenching of the signal. Now, since there's no more binding of the molecule under these conditions, we interpret this as a conformational change that brings the fluorophores into closer proximity or angles to each other so that the quenching increases. And we think this is probably a fluorescent to the constricted state that Jenny Hinshaw has published. When you add GTP, you see a transient move towards this conformational change, and then, as you expect, the disassembly of dynamin from the lipid bilayer. Comparing the kinetics of disassembly of the membrane, the kinetics of release from the membrane by the NDV dissociation assay, and the kinetics of disassembly of dynamin-dynamin interactions as measured by the Bodipi assay, you see about a 1-second lag here, in which dynamin remains on the membrane, but remains assembled, but releases the membrane. Right? So the question is, how do you reconcile this behavior to membrane fission, a mechanism for membrane fission? So enter Thomas Tuckerville, who took a page out of a playbook of developing planar supported lipid bilayers. This method has been around for some time, in which you can take liposomes, absorb them to a glass surface. They absorb, fuse, and rupture to create a supported bilayer on these glass surfaces. This can be done with glass cover slips, but it also can be done with glass beads, silica beads, in which you can deposit a supported bilayer around the bead with a thin aqueous layer of about a nanometer, so that these lipids are free to diffuse within the plane of the bilayer in these systems. The problem is, when you make a tight, stable, supported lipid bilayer, there is no reservoir from which you might be able to remodel the membrane or pinch off vesicles. And so what Thomas developed is a new approach in which he deposits these liposomes on beads in the presence of a high salt buffer. And there's a paper that has just been accepted a couple of weeks ago in Biophysics Journal that reveals the mechanism of how we're getting this extra membrane deposited on these beads. But under these conditions, Thomas gets about a 3-fold more lipid on the bead that is required for a nice tight-fitting membrane. We think of this like pre-plastic surgery coated bead, little floppy there instead of a nice tight young plastic, young coated bead. So you can see this reservoir here when we take these beads and allow them to sit on glass cover tips, and you can see here very fluid reservoir that spills out onto the cover slip. If you make beads in a conventional way, supported bilayers in a conventional way, there is no reservoir to spill out on these cover slips. So this now becomes a simple assay that we can use to visualize membrane remodeling, and the assay is quite simple. We take these super templates made from PCTS, TIP2, and a little spike in a little bit of rhodamine fluorescence. In the biophysics paper, we've used cholesterol and PE and a variety of lipid compositions, so this can be done with virtually any lipid composition. Anyway, you need now to use pegylated cover slips, because if you don't, the reservoir will spill out. So we use a pegylated cover slip. We just have a little drop where we put the beads on and we let the beads settle, and then we use a simple epifluorescence microscope with a 60x objective lens that allows you to visualize the field of beads. And then to this drop of beads, we add dynamics from a pipette to see what happens. So when we do this in the absence of nucleotides, you can see, hopefully, lights might need to come down for some of these, but you can see little hairy projections emerging from these beads. They get a little thicker. There's bundling, as you see in the next slide. And sometimes these things, as they get along, you can see this fraying and fraying apart, and eventually you can get a tether formed that these two interwrap and intertwine around each other. So this is in the absence of nucleotides, and you can see that the dipdinamin is enriched. It's on the surface of the beads, but it's enriched relative to the lipid on these tubules. By EM, you can see that dinamin has assembled just as it does with purified liposomes. And you can also see that these tubules bundle and wrap around each other. In fact, dinamin was first identified as a microtubule bundling protein, and we think what it's doing here is bundling these lipid tubules as it forms them. Just in passing, we also think the twisting that we see in those experiments reflects the unraveling of these bundled lipid tubules, because these things unravel in the presence of All right, now in the presence of GTP in the real life situation, we have GTP in solution and we add dinamin. You don't see these hairy projections, but what you see coming off the beads are small vesicles that appear over time, filling the media. So this assay, which allows us to visualize vesicle formation, also allows us a very simple biochemical assay for vesicle formation. We simply take the beads with a little bit of fluorescent lipid and incubate them with dinamin, with or without nucleotides, and non-hydrolyzable analogs, and then sediment them for a couple of seconds in a microfiche tube and look for the release of fluorescent lipid. And you can see that the release of fluorescent lipid into the supernatant is absolutely dependent on dinamin, and these mutants of dinamin that are defective in CCP binding or defective in self-assembly are unable to release vesicles from these supertemplate beads. In addition, what Thomas has done is look at a series of dinamin mutants that differentially affect plasmin-mediated endocytosis in vivo, and you can see a very, very nice correlation between the ability of these mutants to mediate fission in supertemplate assays and their ability to support plasmin-mediated endocytosis. So Thomas also developed a trick that allows us to visualize what's going on during these fission reactions. Because of the intensity of fluorescence of the lipid around the bead, we can't actually see what's